Hi there, Dr. Rajeev Iyer here from IMG Secrets. If you're an international medical graduate interested to moving to countries like Canada, Australia, you are expected to take an English proficiency test. Most commonly, it can be IELTS, TOEFL, and a few others. So I have Andrea with me. Andrea is an English expert and she's here to tell how you can approach taking these English exams so you become successful on the very first shot. Hey, Andrea.
Hi, how's it going, Rajeev?
Great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I've been in the English game for about 15 years now. I've helped about 1 million students online pass tests and do well on tests like the TOEFL, the IELTS, and other standardized tests. And also have had hundreds and hundreds of students in my classrooms when I directed an ESL program at a university in the United States. And so just very familiar with the struggle that comes with passing and doing well on a standardized test. I know there's a ton of nerves that go into it and a lot of anticipation of how to get that high score. So that's my background. I just love helping people get to their next goal, whatever that might be.
Nice. I have taken the English exam myself. I have to say it is a pain in the neck.
Yes.
And I talked to quite a few international medical graduates, people who are looking to move to countries like Canada, Australia, and they're really stressed about taking this English test. So what tips do you have to these folks that they can approach this exam quite confidently?
Well, it's interesting. I work with a lot of doctors and other medical professionals who are so skilled at what they do, but for some reason, like you're saying, they're more nervous about this English test than anything else. I would say number one is that you are no stranger to standardized tests. It comes with the profession, right? And so if you can do it, passing a medical board exam or some other high stakes exam, you can do it for English as well. And they really fall into two main categories. The first category is clearly understanding English skills themselves, right? So brushing up on all of the things that, do well as far as communicating, from writing, reading, listening, and then also speaking. All four of those skills, you'll need to put a lot of time into polishing those up, getting as much input as you can in English, practicing all of those skills that are so important. And I've got a lot of strategies for each one of those. But then the second category that is so important is that you really need to understand the structure of the test that you are taking. Some people think, well, if I have my English skills, I speak great English, I write well in English, what else is there to know? I'm going to do well on this English test. Well, that's actually not always the case. You actually need to know the tips and tricks to do well on that specific test. So that means things like, what types of questions are they going to ask? How much time do I have to respond to those? What's the rubric or the grading scale that they're going to use to look at how I speak or how I write? And if you can understand those, how something is structured and what they're looking for, you can increase your score by quite a bit. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that when people, if they just take it without any preparation, knowing that type of test and what's expected of it, they don't score as well as they do the second time, where they've prepared for those specific types of questions and really worked on crafting those responses so they can get the highest score possible.
That's great. When you actually reached out to us about offering this to our medical graduates, I actually looked into your modules and you've done a really nice job in terms of creating them. And this is why we are talking, so I can spread this message to our folks who are international medical graduates who are looking to take these tests in case they're interested to sign up for a course with you. The test actually tests in various different accents. I think sometimes it's a British accent, sometimes it's an Australian accent. So what accent do you commonly see, or is it common to have these variations?
It's really common to have the variations. They want to know that you can respond in a variety of contexts. And so I always encourage people to, follow 5 different types of accents in podcasts that you listen to. We underestimate how much input can play a role. So if someone can just listen to a casual podcast in a New Zealand accent, and then another one in an Australian, another one in British, and another one in American, getting exposure to those different accents will really go a long way. And so make sure that you have some kind of input from all of those different accents, because ultimately hospitals, the workplace in general, it's a diverse place, right? People come with different accents and different backgrounds, and so we need to be able to respond in those different scenarios.
Actually, that's very well said. You're absolutely right. Now, if someone asks me, I'm taking my English test, how do I prepare? Interestingly, I was talking to someone from the Middle East just this past week, and then she was interested in knowing how to approach the test. And because I had not talked to you then, so I just said, watch some movies, listen to some songs on YouTube or on the TV. Do you think that's a sound advice, or am I just not helping here?
No, I love it. I think that whatever gets more input coming in is a great thing, right? So if you are not the type who's going to sit down and listen to extensive academic lectures, then sure, pop on a movie if it's going to help you. However, I would say, to take it up to the next level and really prepare for that academic English, which is what they're going to be looking for, I would say throw in with those movies, throw in some TED Talks. So TED Talks are really great, lecture driven. They're engaging, but they're also kind of that academic vein. Or you can go to YouTube and look up lectures on different academic topics. So we know everyone who is in this audience is great at science, but maybe it's time to go listen to a literature lecture or one about, history, American history, or whatever, target country you're looking at taking that test for. So mix it up. But I love that idea. So whatever you can do to increase that input is going to help you ultimately.
I think that's a good point. So what would be a typical format of these tests?
Yeah, so these tests typically focus on 4 skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And it's really important that you can do all 4 skills. So most of us, naturally in our second or third languages, we're really great at 1 or 2 of those, right? Someone might be great at listening and speaking because they love speaking with other people, but they might not be as good at writing down their thoughts or spelling, for example. Or the vice versa can be true. You're great at reading and writing because you love consuming news in English, but you're not as great at holding a conversation. So that's where I would say that it's really important to find out, assess yourself. What are you actually good at when taking these tests? Which of those skills and which ones really need improvement? And then once you are honest with yourself about that assessment, then you really focus in on which of those skills do I really need to practice more and more. This is my biggest advice when it comes to speaking and writing. Both of those are very heavy on how you organize your thought patterns. So how you organize, starting with a main topic and moving to adding examples and details after it, and finishing up with a concluding thought. If you stick with that organization in both how you speak and how you write, you are going to score higher than someone who doesn't organize their thoughts that way. And so really focus in and find out, get prepared for those sections that you're not prepared for so that you can get your highest score.
Okay. And also, I think the band score is pretty important in each of these modules. They look at individual band scores, plus they also look at the overall band score.
Right.
And the expectation, I believe, is that one has to have more than 7.5 on the IELTS. And I'm blanking out on the exact number on the TOEFL.
Well, it depends on what someone's goals are. Some residency programs have a certain standard and that might be different from another one. And so you bring up a really good point that it's important to know whatever country you're going to or whatever, program you're trying to get into, it's important to know what is that standard that you need to reach and then prepare to succeed in that way. And if they do look at band scores and say, well, the minimum is X amount for the writing section, then let's test yourself as much as possible and make sure you are meeting that score. So it really is important to know what are those scores for that specific program or that country that you're going to.
And interestingly also, some of these tests have different modules. For example, IELTS, I know, has an academic version and also has a basic version. And we as doctors are supposed to take the academic version when we are making the transition into like working as a clinical fellow and things like that. We also have another category of people, those who apply for, let's say, permanent residency in Canada, for example, and the requirement is them to have the basic version of the IELTS, because in that case they're not assessing really high level skills in English.
Yeah, you bring up a great point that you need to know when you're registering for these tests that you're taking the right one. Another caveat of this is that the TOEFL, for example, now has the opportunity to either take it at home or at a center. And some programs or, entrance agencies that are looking at these things, they won't accept the one that's taken at home. But other ones do, and you might feel more comfortable taking it at home. It's just really a matter of looking at those requirements and making sure you're taking the right test.
Yeah, tell me about it. So when I did my Canadian permanent residency application, I ended up taking the academic version of the IELTS and I submit my permanent residency application. Of course, it comes back with clarifications. And I see what exactly happened. Then I realized instead of taking the basic exam, I have taken the advanced exam thinking, okay, fine, I'm a doctor, I'm supposed to take an advanced exam. And then I write back to them saying that if you think I get a good score on academic, don't you think I would not get a good score on basic? So they said, no, they wouldn't accept that. They said, I do need to have the basic exam. So believe it or not, I actually had to go back and then do the basic exam and then
look at you.
Such a waste of time and money.
Yeah, it's for them. It's just a box that needs to be checked that you score, did the certain one. So that is a waste of time. So yeah, let's learn from that mistake, right?
Right. So that's the message I'm giving my IMGs, to be extra careful about the type of English test they need to take so they don't do the same mistake that I did of retaking the same exam twice.
Yeah, it's a good tip.
So let's say if someone wants to speak like you, or maybe not as much as you, but rather get some help from you, how do they go about it?
Yeah, so I know we're going to link up a couple links here in the description because there's a couple ways. Number one, I offer a lot of pronunciation help through my Clear English Pronunciation course, which is a part of English Every Day. And then also I do TOEFL master classes where people, if you're taking the TOEFL test or really approaching any standardized test, you can come in and for 3 weeks, we're going to do an intensive where we meet every week as a group. And then also you go through my course and you do a lot of practice activities and get the reps in. It's like going to the gym and you're lifting all the weights because you're going to have to lift something heavy 3 weeks from now, right? So we're in there every day like a gym. We're working up for that moment where you can do everything you can to get the best score possible. So yeah, I do general English training and then also this TOEFL prep. And so we'll link that up here for folks to join if you want to come alongside and really help you get to that next level.
Yeah, so if you guys want to join Andrea's class, I'm going to leave the link in the description below and that will take you directly to the course. But remember, this would be an affiliate link. If you use that link to sign up for Andrea's class, then IMG Secrets would receive a small commission. You would get a discount of 10%.
Great. Becoming doctors in other countries, I think, is such a powerful dream to come alongside. So thanks for, letting me partner with you.
That's great. Hopefully our medical graduates can get help from you and then succeed. More importantly, they should succeed in their English test, because interestingly, an English test is a must requirement for these clinical fellowships. And if they hire a candidate, they would not process the paperwork without the English test. And there is a risk that if someone couldn't clear the English test on time, they might even lose their position. So it's really critical.
Yeah, absolutely. The stakes are so high on the test, and my heart about the whole thing is I just want to help you get to the next stage. And it shouldn't be the English test that takes you out from the dream that you have of, pursuing your career in another country.
Right. So in the US, we have a test called the Occupational English Test, as you might be familiar with. So do you offer any help with that?
So I offer a lot of help when it comes to standardized tests and providing people with the tips that they need to succeed on any English test. So I've had students come to me taking, you name it, they've come to receive training from me to score well on the English test. And there are a lot of standards that if you learn it for the TOEFL or you learn it for the IELTS, you can apply it to the OET or others as well. So yeah, that's definitely something that, I can help people with.
Great. Is there anything else you want to say? So our IMGs clear this English test at the very first shot.
Yeah, I would say do as much preparation as you can in the weeks leading up to it as possible. So you don't have to study for 12 weeks for this test. If your English is fairly good anyway, and then you spend 3 or 4 weeks right before the test, really just making English your world and this test, knowing that test your world, then you really can do well. But I will say that most people do better on the second or third time that they take it. So if I'm you, I'm signing up to take it twice within 3 or 4 weeks of each other just to see, can I improve that score a little bit more? I would say it's not a failure to take it a second time. You actually learn a lot about the format of the test by taking it. And so, you can see some improvements to your score.
Oh, so do they let people take a second attempt just to improve the scores?
Oh, sure. I have some people that I worked with. Recently, I did some coaching with them about the TOEFL test. And before they had come to me, they had taken it 5 times, which is wild. I wouldn't recommend that because I really think that if you dig in and focus for a short amount of time, that's probably the best you're going to do. But after they came to me, they had taken it on their own 5 times, but then we really dug in and they improved their score after really focusing on those skills that we looked at.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and I would say when you're taking it, it may be, you need to look at the requirements of the program you're going to, but you can take a test and possibly not submit those scores the first time, right? Take a practice run, do the best you can, and then take it a second time and submit those scores.
Okay, so this is probably a good idea for those folks who are really scared of taking an English test and are not comfortable enough to approach this test confidently. So, okay.
Exactly. And I find that that's most people. There's a lot of people who, even if they have the English skills, they just wonder about what's on that test, or the time crunch is really the part that people worry about the most. How can I give a complete answer in only 45 seconds, for example? And so I find that if you can take it once, you actually know what you're expecting the next time, and some of those nerves go down.
Right, that's true. Okay, so it's so nice talking to you, and thanks for sharing all your insights on how to be successful with the English test. And I do want to remind you that if you want to book any appointments with Andrea, you can use the link in the description below. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, then you can always book an appointment on our website, www.imgsecrets.com, for obtaining guidance about your career. Any questions, do post in the comments below. You can check the above playlist where I left a lot of videos about your career on how you can be successful as an IMG in Canada. Take care, stay safe. I will talk to you soon.